Welcome to the My Amazon Guy podcast. Today I'm going to be talking to Andre Lozovic, who is a $1 million brand New Wave swim buoy. He's best in the business at driving traffic through social media and crowdsourcing content. So I'm excited to talk to you today, Andre. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for inviting me.
So Andre, how did you start your Amazon business? Let's go way back and start with that.
Well, one of the good things about starting a business is that I didn't risk any money. Literally, it was I was a part of a tri club, and I noticed a year probably in 2014 that a product was highly overpriced on Amazon, and I thought, why can I not? Why do I have to pay $40-$50 for this X product and $7 for shipping? Talked to some friends that also needed a swim safety device, and it was not available anywhere. I kind of pulled up some options on Alibaba and ordered a sample, and there was literally maybe $30. Sample was okay. Then we kind of ordered. I had a partner at that time who was a swimmer, professional swimmer, a long distance swimmer in open water. So it was kind of easy for me to use her direction and also approval to there is a product that's going to be needed, and we can sell it. So
do you think it's worth having a partner that has that product expertise? Do you think that was a good call?
Well, I think you have to be willing to sell yourself. You can't rely. I'm pretty connected in the triathlon community in Atlanta, at least, and I did know owners of 5 stores in Atlanta, and before I even ordered, I pre-sold and asked them, "Are you guys interested in we gonna be selling this or sourcing this in China? Are you guys interested in ordering some and having this in your store?" And 5 stores said yes. So, and it wasn't, my partner had some experience on camera in Hollywood doing some content creation. So she was really good at creating content initially, instructional videos, and helping us promote the brand. But as far as knocking on doors and doing cold calling and getting pre-orders, I think that's a must. Somebody has to have appetite for sales, and that's I think a critical component for launching a brand, to be able to hear no and to ask a question, because once you ask that question, would you like to buy this, and hear no 100 times, maybe the product is not viable. But if you hear every second time, yeah, of course. I'm a big believer in concept of if you have a good product, there's a person within 1 square mile of you that's dying to buy it and just doesn't know about it. So all you have to do is communicate information effectively, and they will respond. So if nobody's responding, then potentially it's not a good product. But I was in the fortunate position to be well connected. I'm a pretty outgoing guy, so I knew a lot of people that were ready to buy. And by accident, or I listed it on eBay, sold a few items, and listed it on Amazon, and sold out within a week. So, and the first order I placed was only 40 units. So it wasn't a big...
That's a good problem to have. Stocking out can really be painful, but sometimes when you're first getting started, it's better to stock out than overstock it, pay all those fees. So a lot of people that are listening to this are like, there's no way I'm going to go talk to people in person. Is there a way to pre-sell online? You kind of mentioned eBay.
I don't, I think the most important thing when you talk to somebody in person is you have ability to tailor your sales pitch and see how it lands, and look at a person and see at their response and what they're energized by. I think that's a good, I think testing online is very difficult, and you got to be in that industry and know what already sells. It's hard to actually create a new demand. So I think just I see a lot of people that go into very obscure industries that don't know anything about a product or an area, and they try to kind of conjure up a demand.
I think there's two types of products. I think there's co-opting demand products, and that's
Mhm.
probably the bulk of what most people are dealing with today, especially as they've gone on Amazon. And the second type is creating demand products, which is much harder to do. And because I think Amazon's entering the maturity phase, and I cover that in my second podcast, I think it's going to be harder to co-op demand. I think you're going to have to start bringing some new products to market and create demand. So this product you're talking about, the New Wave swim buoy, which I think you'll have to describe a little bit for people, because maybe people not in the triathlon industry know what you're talking about. But was that a demand gen product?
Uh, I didn't have to create demand for it.
Okay, so demand was there, but what is a New Wave swim buoy?
It's an open water swim safety device. It's used by triathletes that swim in lakes and ocean and rivers. So it's an inflatable float or tow float. In UK they call it. In the US it's a swim buoy that attaches to your waist with a belt and a tether, and it's the size of approximately 20 liter dry bag or backpack if you've ever seen it, and it floats behind you. It's very light, about 12 ounces to 10 ounces depending on the model, but it helps swimmers to for security, to be able to rest if you get tired, and to be seen also. It's very bright when people, for boaters, to see the swimmer in the water, because normally a swimmer, especially if they're wearing a black wetsuit, they're practically invisible in the water. So also most swimmers are very confident in when they train in the pool, because they're always within an arm's reach of a lane line, and when they get in the open water and they can't touch the bottom or they can't touch the lane line, they panic. So it helps to have something within an arm's reach for a swimmer.
So you had 40 of these you first purchased. How did you take it to the next step?
Well, I think next step, the first one I purchased, I didn't even have packaging. It was just a poly bag and a product inside, and I kind of printed a little business card. When I sold out, pre-sold a few, put them in stores. I had a few friends that were wanting to buy them in the Tri Club, and there was a community that was, again, the idea behind the product was to buy it for my friends in the Tri Club, and it was to help them kind of source it cheaper, as opposed to go into an old product. And a lot of people ask me, like, "Oh, did you invent this product?" And I say, "No, I'm just better at logistics. I'm really good at executing, bringing products in and putting them in the right place at the right time." So
I think there's three things that every business needs to run: operations, which you talked about, marketing, and finance. And I think personally, you got to be excellent at least one of those. If you're passing grade on the other two, you're probably okay. But you have to be excellent in one specific area. So for you, it started out in logistics. So have you ever been to China?
I've never been to China, but I'm originally from Russia, and I feel very comfortable around import export, and I've taken some import export classes at a local community college, like a little 10-hour course taught by a freight forwarder. So I've always been kind of fascinated by this idea, whether it's importing products from US to Russia, or but I've never actually done it, other than like buying some things in the US and taking them to Russia for my friends. But go ahead.
So Taiwan, have you ever bought anything from Hong Kong, Taiwan, or any other market?
Well, since I launched my product 3 years after my original product launched, I did have some quality issues with swim goggles that were manufactured in China, and I did turn to a goggle manufacturer in Taiwan and found the quality. And again, samples are a must before you order. I looked at the quality of the product that was made in Taiwan, and was
Did
pleasantly surprised.
Did you order any products from your competitors before you started?
I have, and it was, and obviously, because I was in the swim industry, as a competitor, as an athlete, I kind of knew the quality of the products on the market, so it wasn't a big priority for me to test out a product and make one just like that. Like the manufacturer will have a catalog, and oftentimes I've ordered a few swim buoys and goggles that just disintegrate on arrival.
Jeez.
If you try to inflate them, they don't even test them. So, and goggles as well. I could not believe some items that I have received, including some towels or mesh bags, or
even in the sample kits.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You think they would at least send you high quality samples? All right. So walk me through this. So you placed your order for those first 40. They sold out. What was your reorder look like?
The reorder was 140, and then I was getting ready. Those sold out very quickly, and
man, I guess if I was in your shoes, I probably would have maybe pulled the trigger on 1,000 at that stage. But what made you stay to 140?
Well, I've never done it before, and of course, I needed to kind of roll over my capital from the first sales. My partner and I, we didn't really have my partner was still very risk averse and didn't want to dump a lot of money in, and it was 50-50. So at that point, we kind of rolling money into an existing sales proceeds into the next order. So it was.
So it is still possible to do that then.
Oh yeah. So
Okay.
I think the first order was only $150. It wasn't.
Yeah. Usually I try and invest about $3,000 in a new product. So yeah, it's very risk averse.
So yeah, I think I didn't really dump a lot of money into the. I kept scaling it at that rate for 4 or 5, 6 times. At some point, I think it went on for a year and a half until I realized, okay, now I'm ready to send a $30,000 a wire to China. And again, it's
Is that when you went full time?
Yeah. And the reason why you don't want to do it, I think you do want to test your suppliers and work out the kinks on a small scale. Even packaging, the first year when I was ordering still 150 to 450 to 800 to 1200, it was still trying to get the print quality correct. Whether it's, I realized that my supplier that makes the product is not able to print well or make the stickers that go on the packaging. So in China, it's very, very the packaging quality is very poor. So you have to find the right suppliers for everything. So again, it's like whether it's ordering stickers, you have to find 3 or 4 suppliers, printers that will send you samples, and then you say, okay, that's awful. The original print quality of my product looked like it was color print on a paper, on a newspaper paper. So
Jeez.
And it was like water soluble. So it wasn't great. Even color correction, the color space was not right. So like you think it's gonna look one way on your screen and looks completely different on paper. So I learned a lot about sourcing and color correction and design throughout this process, and had to hire the right people for that.
All right. So speaking of hiring people, so you went full time about a year and a half in, and then you probably had to hire some contractors or some point or something like that. What does your org chart look like today?
Today I'm self-employed. I don't have any employees.
So you're a one-man band.
Yeah, and I tell people that you essentially you're not alone, because you have teams of hundreds of people working for you, developing content, or in the current economy, you no longer need to have a job, a formal relationship. Even Amazon doing warehousing and fulfillment. Like I don't need to actually buy my own warehouse and hire my employees to store 30 pallets of inventory. I can kind of rent it out. So all the supply chain solutions, whether it's manufacturing, printing, delivery into Canada or UK, that's all done through service providers and people I build relationships with, and that takes significant amount of time and investment. But I don't differentiate between those relationships and employees. Like that I've had employees, and summertime is very busy for me. So at that point, I do get overwhelmed with seasonal orders and customer service requests, and I do hire people that help me with social media management, and usually college students, friends that are going to Georgia Tech or UGA that are here home for the summer, and they help me kind of with warehousing and help me with some bulk orders that go to stores, whether it's 100 buoys to go ahead.
So there's one question that kind of comes to mind when you're this one-man band and you're going against corporations in some instances. Where do you feel like you have advantages? Where do you feel like you have weaknesses?
I feel like I have all the advantages because I think I'm much more. I have ability to make decisions when I build relationships with ambassadors
and execute.
Oh yeah, I think even contacting people, whether it's dealing with sponsors or sponsorship opportunities with race directors, athletes, or working negotiating with suppliers, I'm much more generous with my with giveaways and helping people, kind of compensating them for content with product, simply because I think employees at big corporations, let's say Speedo or Roca, they're not the equity partners, so they don't have any. Their main objective is to save costs. So their standard answer is no. The safest answer is no. So for that reason, I think I have the advantage of surprise and delight. It's something I learned from Gary Vee, who talks about it all the time. I have ability to always give more, and simply because I don't have the overhead. I do have an office at Atlanta Tech Village that costs me about $550 a month. But I don't have the employee benefits or the overhead of big companies that have offices full of staff and bills to pay. So I think I give away my way of reinvesting into the brand is rewarding community and building kind of content around my brand to propel it forward.
So I can relate to that because I run My Amazon Guy, which is an 8-person agency, and the difference between that when I was a one-man band or a 2-person band, man, sometimes I'm staying up late at night thinking about how do I manage the company. So I can relate to that. That's definitely something that's interesting to think about. For those that are listening that don't think that they're able to learn all of these things that you're talking about, what should they do? Should they go hire a consultant? Should they go learn it? How do they learn it? What do you think?
I think each person will be different, and they'll be able to learn most everything on YouTube and the internet, and that's how I learned. And obviously, I had time and I had the appetite for it. So I think if you have kids, if you have a full-time career, you're not going to be able to spend 80 hours a week doing this. I think you got to be honest with yourself. If you already committed to your family, to your partners, to a job, to your church, to your friends, and you don't want to give that up, I did have to give up a lot to build a business. In fact, I was so busy. I was a member of Atlanta Tri Club for 5 years, and when the business picked up and I invested a lot of money and a lot was on the line, when I started carrying $30,000 to $40,000 in inventory and storage, I realized like that's all I can think of. I don't have time to even travel. Like get in the car and sit in traffic was way too much time. But
I can relate to that. Oh my gosh, I can relate to that. Working from home and that extra 2 hours a day, that goes a long way. I mean, that's 10 hours a week without traffic.
But I think if you're not able to dedicate 80 to 90 to 100, if you're not able to work every weekend and give up all your friends and family,
I would draw the line there. I think it's
Yeah.
I think it's possible to still have friends and family, unless you want to be a cat guy. You have cats?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, I see there. He's a cat guy. He
But-
stays at home, plays with the cats.
So, but it is extremely difficult to build a brand, and that if you want to play in that space, then you got to hire somebody to kind of
Watch it like a hawk.
to reduce the learning curve. I think that, and somebody is going to tell you what's relevant and what's not. There's a lot of noise out there, and now that 6 years into it, I understand what works and what doesn't. And now I watch guys talk about whether it's Facebook ads or branding and marketing, and agencies are constantly hustling me for my business, and I ask them how they would do it, and I laugh, and I think there is you're going to come across it's hard to decide what's going to work, and obviously test everything. Like that's one thing I learned. I don't trust my own opinions, or I don't call them opinions anymore. It's just an assumption. And then whatever that assumption is, I always ask myself, how much money am I willing to lose to prove myself wrong or right? So
that's a good litmus test. I like that. How much are you willing to spend to prove yourself right or wrong?
mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good one, Andre. Okay, cool. So you started talking about social media, and this is really the meat and potatoes of why we're shooting this podcast. And so let's talk about what makes you the best in the business, your crowdsourcing content, Instagram content, Facebook, blog posts, photos, Facebook, all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, my background, I'm a CPA by training and by trade. I have 20 years of experience working in public accounting before I kind of started this business and went into it full time. But my hobby has always been obviously triathlon and sports and swimming and playing tennis. But also as a kid, my big hobby was photography and videography. So even as a member of Atlanta Tri Club, I've always taken pictures at all events and races and posted hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of photos. So I always kind of love promoting and communicating visually. And I think it was my talent. Even in high school, I won national awards in Russia, and people love the photos. I love the moments, capturing and making them timeless.
So did you just show up to 100 different triathlons and take photos, or what?
Well, I was a member of a tri club that had 300 members in Atlanta. So I would take pictures at social events or races, and of course these would be, posted either internally on the forum for Atlanta Tri Club, and people love pictures when they're racing. And I'm talking about, I would be taking pictures of friends at events, not somebody, not random people standing on the sidelines or racing.
So how did you go from taking the photos yourself and scaling it? Because I know you aren't posting thousands of pictures you took nowadays. What happened?
Well, I do. I think what I realized that the power. I mean, first of all, it was always a powerful tool in my toolbox. And at the beginning of my business, I knew like I needed good quality content to promote my product. And I have given tens and hundreds of buoys and promotional materials to every one of my friends. And I was begging them for pictures. Please send me a picture. Please send me a picture. And it created a lot of tension. Like I would be nagging my friends. Imagine 50 people in your immediate vicinity. And if you give them a glass and you ask them to send a picture with that glass, I would only get one out of 50 people, only one would do it. So I realized like that created a lot of tension with my friends, and I realized instead of pushing people to do what I wanted, which is content, I needed to actually incentivize my community or buyers to produce content for me. So I came up with a line of promotional products, including some keychains, towels, some waterproof phone pouch, visors, hats, transition mats, things that are kind of accessories for triathletes. But inside of each order or on the packaging, I started adding a promotional message saying that, hey guys, if you post a selfie with my product, I'll send you some swag, a swim cap, or a pair of goggles, and that was a lot more effective at achieving or gathering content than simply nagging your friends for it. And I think that was a big aha moment for me when instead of giving away 50 units of product and getting nothing back for it. Now I had people that were buying product from me, and they had appetite for content, because a lot of people are not on Instagram and don't want to be public with their pictures, but some people love it. So I was able to find those folks using kind of the incentive method, and out of 10 to 15,000. Especially in the U.S., those folks are very much online and sophisticated enough to active in the triathlon community, and they are willing to post, especially if there is kind of a potential for reward. And another thing that I learned early on in this incentive model that I built, I was contacting people, I was reposting, asking them to send me original pictures via whether it's a direct messaging or through telephone texting or emailing people. Collecting that content was very time consuming. So then I said, all right, I need to come up with a strategy. Now people need to just tag my Instagram account. That's the only way I was going to do it, because it was very easy to repost it. I didn't have to ask them to send me originals or text it to me. If they post it on Instagram, I can repost it, and the comment, the caption was already there. So I just use the software to kind of pretty much automate it. And
so you sent out a lot of swag. So that was the first aha moment. And then the second aha moment was, man, I'm getting so much content, I can't keep up with it. Have them post it instead of you. And that was the second aha moment.
Well, I think another important key finding I do want to share with your community is I think one of the most time consuming and stressful things was promising people that you will give them free swag, and then contacting them, whether it's on Instagram or Facebook, and then they send you their address, and now you have to send them something, but the address is not complete. You actually have to have a phone number and email, but they haven't given it to you, or they don't want to give you their phone number. They're kind of apprehensive about sharing their private information via DM with a stranger. So
DM standing for direct message, but go on.
On Instagram specifically, yeah. So what I realized, tested this, and it works really well. Instead of asking people for contacting them and giving them kind of choices of towels, what color would you like? Would you like this swim cap?
You mean you don't want 8 messages per person going back and forth?
No. So what I realized is I set up promo codes in Shopify, and they were I set up two promo codes, one for $30 and one for $70. And for $30, these I give people store credit, and these are one-time use codes. So people will actually on Instagram, I have like a short message, and I send them the same exact standard message. Once they, I say, well, thanks for sharing a Buoy selfie with our community, I'd love to send you some a reward. Here is the promo code. Please go to my site and order anything you want, up to $30. Shipping is covered. So, and that became a lot less time consuming. Even if they never responded, they had all the information they needed to execute, to place an order, and then it just flows into Shopify and then ShipStation, where I print the label, and either myself or an assistant will just package it and ship it. So
third aha moment then, when you went to gift cards essentially for your website, I bet the benefit to that too is now they're not just buying off Amazon, they've been to your website.
And they're getting also, I think, pixel traffic. They're getting time on site. For Google Analytics, it's very important to Google Analytics will see
that engagement.
They see engagement and time on site, which is critical. At the beginning, it's very difficult to drive traffic to your website. And Google Analytics specifically is looking at how much time are people spending and where are they going, what pages are they spending their time on, what are they reading, because Google Analytics knows. And that helped me be ranked for the most, on Google foremost, to be organically ranked at the top.
So a lot of side benefits to that. I imagine too, when you started having the content creators post on their own channels, that probably affected the quality of the content.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I forgot to mention that a lot of, at the beginning, I was asking people to just send me photos, and that was a lot of garbage. They'll be like, oh, here's 30 photos. Where's my swag? And I'd be like, this is nothing I can, I'm embarrassed. Like, this is not something I want to post, nothing. So I started kind of asking them to actually post it on their own feed. And at that point, people like, oh, I don't feel comfortable posting any of these photos to my account. So that became kind of the new standard. Once people are very protective about their own audience, so they're not going to just post any random shots there. So it helped me kind of curate content. I still have multiple content producers that send me content that I can choose from, but it's very stressful. Like, whether it's which one do you choose, and what do you say, what's a comment, like how authentic is it? If they're not comfortable posting it on their account, then there's no story behind it. And I think that became kind of the new standard, to where I asked them to post it, and then the caption is no longer a problem or a struggle. Whereas before I couldn't really, I think writing a caption creative wise, it was very stressful for me to come up with a caption for every photo. And at this point, I'm posting probably 20 photos per day on Instagram.
Is that just you, or does that include your producers?
It's all my producers. Like, I don't.
So you're now at 20 a day. Times that by 365. That's a lot of content. And then Amazon's come out with some new programs where you can post that content, called Amazon Post or Amazon Social. I'm sure you're all over that.
I do. I've tested it, and it's driving a lot of traffic, impressions. You could see clicks on that platform. Unfortunately, they're very, very picky about their the copy and creative. Photos are very difficult to, especially women in swimsuits, which is 90% of what gets traffic for me, is very difficult to post on Amazon. I think in the first 3 weeks of Amazon, they were very lax about their standards. Now they've tightened up their policy about what you can post. So yeah, if you can, as soon as possible, post a few. I think you have to have brand registry in place in order to have access to social posts. But yeah, go to amazon.com/posts, right? Is that where it goes?
I think you're. I have to double check that. We'll put a link in our description once we have that for you. Yeah, it's not amazon.com/posts. We'll put the link in there. Okay, so let's wrap up the social aspect. What other things should people be doing right now to grow their Amazon business with social media and content?
Another, interesting thing that kind of ties into that is the fact that when when you have high volume of content, you have ability to be picky. At the same time, I no longer trust my judgment on what I think is going to perform well. I do run a lot of Facebook ads, probably in the last 12 months. When I looked at my accounting with my controller, I spent over $100,000 just on Facebook and Instagram ads. So, and that is when you spend that kind of money, you really focus on what works. Meaning that I have a lot of variations of ads every month. I put out a new ad added to my ad set. So what's key to understand is ability to crowdsource this content, which is what I do. In the last 5 years, I kind of built up a momentum to where I have over 900. When I say 30 a day, that's in the season, busy season. Some towards the end of the week it's usually slower. The weekends is where when people swim and race. But what's critical is every once a month, at the end of the month, I usually post kind of a ranking of the best photos of the month, and those are if you go into your Instagram analytics and you look at the last 30 days, you'll be able to see what got you the most impressions. And usually those are the photos that will drive, according to Facebook algorithm, which is used by Instagram, these are the photos that are going to give you the highest click-through rate. They're going to give you the highest, the cheapest CPM.
So you took your organic posts, turned them into ads, and were able to get cheaper ads that had better engagement and more mass produced. So fantastic way to tie that in.
So what I specifically want to articulate is a lot of people spend time A/B testing their creative. Well, I look at my Instagram monthly posts as my A/B testing. Out of 900, I picked the top 10, and those, it's like pouring gasoline on fire. I get 9-cent clicks for
9-cent clicks. Holy crap, that's really good.
On interest-based targeting. So it's highly effective. So if and the fact is, at the beginning of my business, I tried to produce content myself. It's going out with friends to the lakes and videotaping photo shoots. I've flown out to Miami multiple times to do photo shoots with my friends. Hired professional athletes to do photo shoots in Miami. Also flown to Milwaukee, Wisconsin to do photo shoots with professional college athletes. So, and it costs a lot of money, and sometimes it's a heavy investment, at least $3,000 to $5,000 per trip to pay, whether it's facilities or renting a studio, renting a lighting engineer for me who is a friend, or flying out with friends, paying for everybody's flights and hotels. So highly recommend using the crowdsourcing approach. In the last, I haven't done a photo shoot myself, and I have a lot of experience in photography, and I have a great camera. In the last 3 years, I haven't done a photo shoot because I have an amazing array of photos that comes through my user-generated content kind of pipeline on Instagram.
So for those that might be interested in this, what kind of camera do you have, and what would you say people should buy these days?
Well, I have a monitor that space closely, and the most important thing is a full-size sensor. If you guys are looking for a good camera, look into Sony Alpha 6600 and get a good lens for it. And I think that camera will be about $1,700 without a lens. So if you want to add a good lens, look at the Prime 55 millimeter lens, that will cost you about $900.
Or go crowdsource some content.
Yes.
All right. So let's close the chapter on social media. I just want to talk generically now, just about your, what's like running your business. So what mistakes or trials have you overcome along the way in running your Amazon business?
Well, I think this business that I started 6 years ago, early on, started with a partner. Partner kind of didn't want to invest more, so I bought my partner out. And I learned that, as a solopreneur, you can kind of be more nimble at making decisions. You don't have to convince anybody to invest somebody else's money. It's all you. It's all on you. Every risk you take is your responsibility. So while I was growing my business, I kind of got cocky and confident, thinking that I can sell anything. But the fact is, the minute you start thinking that you can do and sell anything, and without testing and learning, that's when you get walloped. So I bought. I tried to launch other products, and I tried obviously with complementary products in the swim and triathlon industry. Including towels, goggles, swim caps, and they don't sell as well. Keeping them in my inventory is not a big deal, but one of the lessons I learned is don't order a lot from a single supplier. I've had some issues early on where my manufacturer was approached by a competitor in China, and they said, "Oh, we have a patent on this exact product. You can't manufacture this for New Wave swim buoy." My supplier had to put me on pause for a year and a half. I was forced to find another supplier, and that was a kind of a stressful situation. The quality dropped significantly. And I had another situation. China is very unpredictable when it comes to quality. The goggles I ordered initially didn't had a massive issue with the refraction. Essentially, what it is when you underwater, everything looks blurry, and I didn't test them well enough to know this in advance. Of course. Now I give everybody, before I even place a big order, instead of ordering just a sample of 1 or 2 or 3, I order 12 to 25 units of this product of samples.
To make sure they manufacture it?
Oh no, I give it to all my friends, and I
Okay,
say, go tell me what you think. Tell me how they perform. Is there anything wrong? What's the fit like? And the manufacturing in Taiwan, if you have an option, if it's a high-tech situation, there's a lot of polymers or plastics, definitely try to get a few samples and see how they perform in action. Don't just look at them at your desk, or don't
throw your samples in the closet where they all belong, right?
Yeah.
What do you do with your old samples? Do you keep them in the closet or do you get rid of them?
Yeah, I have storage for samples.
Storage for samples. All right. Yeah, you got a lot of samples.
Just in case.
Just in case. All right. Okay, so Andre told me a little bit about his trip to Europe. I want to talk to you about that with our listeners. What happened in Europe, Andre?
Well, Amazon is very unpredictable. As they grow, they come in contact with a lot of regulations, especially in Europe. My category in Europe was hit hard with a new regulation on life-saving devices, and for some reason they tagged my product as a life vest, and maybe because I incorrectly categorized it as a life vest and sold successfully for 2 years, and then all of a sudden within 2 days they wanted to have a CE certification that proves that my life vest, which it was not. It wasn't a life-saving device. It wasn't
So it might have been miscategorized. So what did you do about it?
Couldn't do anything. All my listings were taken down in Europe.
Ouch.
And I was stuck with 7,800 units of inventory in the warehouse, spread all over Europe.
Did you this one lose a little bit of sleep on this one?
Oh yeah, I mean it's a lot of money just to buy it, but also I'm kind of like emotionally attached to my inventory. I never destroy it.
Oh,
I never can. I don't have a stomach to hit the discard button.
I have done that. I've done that with hundreds of units. I'm not afraid to do that. However, Amazon just announced today, guys, they changed the fees. It's now the same fee to destroy as it to remove it. So now Andre's policy of always keeping his inventory actually will pay out better. So it's better to remove it since the cost is now the same as destroying. All right, so you removed your inventory? How did you do that?
So yeah, that's an expensive lesson. My inventory was, if you sell in Europe, you may know like there is ability or was an ability to do distributed warehousing all throughout Europe, and Amazon used to give incentives to kind of enroll in that program, to where they said, oh, it's going to be cheaper if we send it to Poland. Are you okay with that? So I was like, sure, that's fine. And then when they said they can't keep my inventory for too long. I think they kept it for 6 months, and then I was kind of forced to withdraw it. Essentially, I couldn't find a warehouse. I couldn't find a place that will take my inventory. And 7,800 units of anything, nobody wants that. So I found one of my ambassadors, brand ambassadors, lives in Barcelona, Spain, and has a business with a sizable warehouse where I was able to withdraw it to. But the problem is, I opened my account in UK, so withdrawing in UK is like 10 cents to withdraw. But when you withdraw to Spain, that becomes a lot more expensive. So I think I must have paid over €2 per unit to withdraw. So I ended up, my one day when they were charging me for withdrawal fees, I got hit with over $16,000. My credit card maxed out.
My goodness.
So I think that was the most expensive lesson.
So you just sent it to your friend and he took care of it for you?
But here's the thing. Like, I didn't even look at the cost, like, because now I know it would have been cheaper to send it to a warehouse in UK where I opened my account, where a lot of inventory was housed, stored, where I sent it. I think I sent a lot of it to France, but essentially, the lesson that I want our listeners to learn, other than that I went there in person, is that
you flew out to Spain to take care of the inventory removal. Oh my goodness!
What I want you guys to look at is pull up inventory location report and see where it's located, and maybe it's going to be, and look at the cost from that location to the warehouse. Because Europe is very different. It's not uniform distribution system like in the US. They're going to charge you huge fees if it's going from Poland, let's say, from UK to Barcelona.
I have to admit, I probably would have just destroyed it.
And it would have been a good idea. So I flew out and I thought, okay, it's going to be a vacation as well as...
doing work is vacation.
And I've never been to Barcelona, so...
you were so not burned out from doing warehousing of 7,800. 7,800 units. Yeah, you probably spent a full week in Barcelona just decompressing, I'm sure.
I did go for a few meals and
few meals, yeah, that's what it boiled down to, guys.
but I got to tell you, like I thought, and the interesting part is like inventory that was withdrawn, it was fine to be sold as is. I just had to relabel it by hand.
Oh my goodness! You just had to put a sticker on this stuff and send it back.
And
wow, the things that Amazon makes us do, guys. Oh my goodness!
And add a phone pouch. So after I kind of put a few bundles together, maybe a few hundred. Okay, at 1,000, I said, I'm not doing this. Let's just go ahead and send it as is. I didn't have the time or the stomach to actually relabel 7800. Maybe I did 1,000 by myself, and with the help of my friend. But uh, I don't know if I learned my lesson though. I don't know if I would have done any different. Other than yeah, it, maybe I would have donated it to a swim school, or a tri club in UK, instead of withdraw it to a bunch of tri shops all over Europe, and call it a day, instead of going there to relabel it, because I think sending it from China would have been probably cheaper, and under a different SKU.
All right, so let's move on from your European story. What other mistakes or trials have you overcome? So I understand you had somebody in California try and troll you a little bit.
Oh yeah, that's a good story. My
Let's do the 30-second version because we're going to wrap up here soon.
Of course, I did get an attorney letter. Somebody was suing me for Prop 65 violation. It is like a patent troll, but in California they go after companies that sell a product that contains BPA, or potential. They have much stricter regulations in California.
Yeah.
So they found, they did purchase, whoever that was, a firm purchased my product. They tested just the belt on top, and they found traces of this chemical that was not in compliance on particles per million. There were too many. Let's say there was 100 versus 75.
You're getting too technical. So how did you solve that problem? You talked to a bunch of lawyers and then it went away, or what happened?
It was a nightmare for a year. I talked to probably 10 different attorneys. All of them wanted at least $15,000 to make this go away, and they said we'll probably have to pay the suing law firm another $25,000 so to settle, and you have to prove that your new product complies, and they'll give you a permission to sell out the old inventory. So the trick is, I found out that this is important for you guys to know. Turns out not a single attorney that I spoke with told me that if your company, if your corporation has less than 10 employees, California Prop 65 does not apply to you. And
that's fantastic to hear that, and that ties in with your one-man band. Keep it under 10,
Yeah.
and California headaches will go away. All right, so let's move on from that. Have you launched in other markets, things you wouldn't do again?
I've launched in Canada, and I think that's been a success. I've launched in Europe, and Germany has been a good market for 2 years, and it's probably been my second biggest market in the world after US, until VAT regulations kind of cracked down and the cost of compliance became so ridiculously high. Obviously, Amazon shut down accounts that didn't present or didn't have a VAT registration. VAT registration in Germany is impossibly difficult. You almost have to have a notarized a bank account located there, and to open a bank account, I've heard from multiple companies based there that it's just cheaper to buy a corporation based in Germany. But then again, the cost of filing, and it all has to be in German as well.
Oh yeah, I love learning German.
So I just abandoned Germany as a market completely.
So you wouldn't launch in Europe nowadays if you had to do it again?
I think no.
What about Japan, Australia, Middle East?
I've launched in Japan, and sales were very soft. I was there for about 2 years, and they took down my listings for an unknown reason. I still don't. They didn't explain very well. I did launch in Australia. I had 100 units there at Amazon FBA warehouse in Australia for a year. And I literally sold only one unit, only one.
Jeez.
And I'm not sure why, but the Amazon is still very, very young in Australia, and I wouldn't, and not very mature. And I think the population of Australia is not as I think just the cost of inventory storage there, unless you're already on the ground and a well-established brand through a retail network, I wouldn't go to Australia right now.
It's pretty sparsely populated, big country too. So getting coast to coast on that's probably pretty difficult. Okay, cool. So what else have you had to overcome? You dealt with any account suspensions?
Of course, that's...
Everybody says, of course. Everybody's done with Amazon suspensions. Oh my goodness. There's so many people that reach out to me at my Amazon guy. Hey, I've got a suspension for XYZ. Not necessarily the kind of business I like dealing with because it's a huge headache. But what happened to you?
Well, I have... at the beginning, of course, maybe 5-6 years ago, it was a wild west. Amazon, they had no restrictions on category pictures, and I had the best performing pictures for me were obviously women in swimsuits, sometimes pictured from the front, sometimes from the back. And for some reason, my data showed that pictures of women from the back, they were the best performing, and they drove a lot of sales in the early years. But unfortunately, at some point, Amazon decided to spell out some rules about what can and cannot be in photographed in their product photography, and main photo can no longer include people in swim training equipment. So I didn't understand this, and I for 2 years I kind of been in denial. And it's been a challenge for me, to accept the fact that all pictures of models have to go. So I've been kind of selling on Amazon through a reseller, but I have been appealing on my main account that still works in Canada and UK. Been appealing my suspension in the US and haven't been able to accomplish it. So haven't been able to get an approval to sell.
That's a long time to appeal a suspension. A lot of people would have probably just opened a new account or bought another business, but you found an alternative, using another reseller account, of course. So suspensions are never fun to deal with. Last topic to hit. What was the biggest product flop you ever had?
Well, just this... not from the sales standpoint, because I don't necessarily buy products to sell. I buy products in China as a currency for compensating my ambassadors. And I looked at kind of all the products I gave out throughout in the last 6 years. It's been over 700 free buoys that I gave away in order to, reaching out to influencers on Instagram. So my biggest flop was recently ordering a visor for my brand. I worked with this supplier in China for 4 years, ordering the same visor over and over again. And the last order for 700 units came in defective. The elastic on the back was 2 inches too long, and it was too stretchy. So the entire order had to be thrown away. So that was very disappointing, because the factory that I worked with has produced quality for 3 years in a row, and I always I'm a big believer in testing a supplier starting with a small order. By the way, if supplier tells you that their minimum order is 100 or 1,000, don't believe that. It's always negotiable. Tell them, like, I'm not ordering. My policy is to order 100. Or say, I'm not ordering anything unless it's 50. It's all negotiable. So always start small. If supplier wants to, as they want a big order, so always negotiate down from that.
That's a great tip to end on. So guys, I appreciate you listening to the My Amazon Guy podcast. My name is Stephen Pope. Today we talked to Andre Lozovic, who owns the brand New Wave Swim Buoy. Please share our podcast with 3 people so that our Podcasts can be heard by more people, and we really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.